Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to start out by acknowledging, number one, Sharon and Jill for putting on an amazing seminar full of love and full of passion and power. We got some profession to be able to do that. You know, when you think about, and I wanted to acknowledge everybody here for showing up, because that's, without showing up, you can't get to where you want to go in life. And you guys are all here, so you're already on your way. But what I wanted to do today is during the break over there, I was trying to think through, because there's so much I want to get out, and I know I have a limited amount of time to do it. I wanted to figure out what the most important thing that I can share with everyone here so that you could take something back and on Monday morning be different. And I think, God works in mysterious ways. What happened yesterday is I did a doctor report yesterday morning before I flew out here, and there was a patient of mine, and he was about 25 years old, and he's from India. His whole family's in India. He's the only one that's here, and he's crippled. And the reason why he's crippled is he has multiple sclerosis. And he's been going to doctors for the last 5 years of his life that keep recommending more medication. They're telling him that he needs a cane. And lately, they're telling him that he has a cyst in his brain, and that if they don't take the medication that he tells them to, the cyst is going to burst. And he's so in fear. And he's so in despair. He's got nobody in this country. He's unemployed. He can't work. He's got a cane. He could barely move. He's only 25. And he came into the office because for the first time in his life, somebody gave him a little bit of hope. And I sat him down and we did a doctor report, and I blasted him with love. And I want to talk about what love is, because all it is the ability to care for another. Care. It comes from your heart. But I knew, because you see, the thing is, I prepare for my day, and I've been doing that for 12 years since I've been out of school. I knew that all that time I took to prepare, this is why. It was for this one guy. It was for this one moment. Because I knew something. I knew that if I didn't get through to him, they would have continuously drugged him to the point he would have died. And as he sat there in the room, and I went through the entire doctor report, I came back in and I said, can you see how we're going to be able to help you? We're going to turn on the power that God gave you so that that intelligence in your brain can now again communicate to your body, allowing your immune system that they're telling you is not functional to become functional again. And he said, Dr. Ray, he said, but I have to tell you, he goes, I don't want to take any more of these shots. And he showed me all over his arm he had bruises because they shoot him with drugs every day. And he said, but they're telling me if I don't, I'm going to die. And I looked at him and I said, listen to me. The only reason why they're telling you that is because they don't know what you now know. And you're going to be a testimony for those doctors to get all those other people that they want to give drugs to get them in here. And he said, Dr. Ray, he said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. He goes, I don't want to lose my balance anymore. He says, I can't walk 5 feet without falling. He says, everybody looks at me like I'm disabled. He says, you're the only one that looks at me and keeps telling me that there is an intelligence within me that you're going to free up, and you see me in my strength and my wellness and my capacity and my abilities, not my weakness. And he goes, Dr. Ray, he goes, I'm going to go and tell everyone. He goes, I got a multiple sclerosis group, one of the biggest ones in Long Island. He says, I'm going there Monday, and I need cards. And I need to give them out because they need to hear this message. And he had a tear in his eye. And I thought about all I'd done all these years. Why do I go to training? Why do I have a coach who can guide me on how to communicate better? Why do I skill myself? Why do I learn how to do a proper consultation and a doctor report? And I figured it out, is that we're in a profession of adjustments. But you see, the first thing that you have to adjust before you get to adjust their spine is you got to adjust their heart and you got to adjust their head. Because they won't let you adjust their spine until you do the other two. And the way that you adjust their heart is by showing them you care. Just love them. And you know what gets in the way of that every time? Me. Sometimes we try to be right, and in the aspect of trying to be right, we lose the ability to connect and care. I had a patient I did a doctor report on last Thursday, and as I was speaking to this patient, right in the middle of the doctor report, I was talking about how amazing the power within you is, how amazing it is because it can make its own chemotherapy. It has the ability to kill off cancer cells. In fact, it does so every single day. 10,000 cancer cells on average in a healthy functioning body are being killed every single day. They never get to that point where it develops into a full-blown cancer. And I started talking about how amazing God's power is within the human body, this intelligence that you've been born with that comes from nature, how amazing it is. And the patient raised their hand and they said, "What chemicals are you talking about?" And I said, tumor necrosis factor, interferons, interleukins. And I said, there's a lot more that are being developed today, and they're discovering them today. And I said, the way that they know how to make drugs synthetically is oftentimes they duplicate what the body is doing naturally. Yet we put more power, we put more faith in some guy in a laboratory with 30 years of experience than in the power that emanates this living universe. So she said, so you mean to tell me that your body can fight off cancer cells? I said, yes. And she said, not every type of cancer. And I said, okay. I said, well, from what I've seen, the patients who come in with cancer get better. And I can speak that with conviction because I see it every day. And she said, well, not this type of leukemia. And she named whatever the name was. And I said, actually, I had a patient with that who did get better with that. And she said, well, you can't help everyone with that. Now, see, I could have continued this badgery, if you will, back and forth, trying to prove a point. You know what I mean? I was going to be right. But you know what I realized? I would have been right, and she would have been right out the door. Because people don't care how right you are. What they care is how much you care. So I had a decision to make in that moment. Because I could keep going and be right and then lose this patient, and her life is on the line. So I looked at her and I said, I don't know exactly what your son had or what leukemia had, and I can't take care of him because that's no longer happening. All I can tell you is this, and I went to a general truth. You're always better with pressure off your nerves than you are on. I said, isn't that right? She said, isn't that right, guys? She said, I can agree with that. And I said, all right, let's move on. And we continued the doctor report, and we broke out, and we went over the results. And in the room, she said, Dr. A, she said, I don't know if you can help people with cancer again. She said, but I have, and she started naming a laundry list of different conditions. She said, do you think you can help with that? And I looked at her and I said, you're always going to be better with pressure off your nerves than you are on. And she said, okay, Dr. A, I'm ready to start. You see, but the thing is, there are triggers that you have. There are things that'll get you in your head. There are things that you're going to hear as you go out there Monday and Tuesday and during the week that are going to throw you off. They're going to push your buttons a little bit. Somebody's going to tell you you're not a real doctor. Somebody's going to tell you chiropractic doesn't work. Someone's going to tell you chiropractic is only for back and neck pain. Somebody's going to tell you that if my insurance doesn't cover, I don't want to do it. Somebody's going to tell you my spouse doesn't need to come. I'm going to leave my family home. They don't need to be here. They got no problem. Why should they be here? And you're going to hear a lot of things, and there's going to be things that are going to be like hot buttons. And your job is to clear those. Because the more of those you clear, the better alignment you have in your heart. And when you touch people, you need to make sure you're not in your head, you're in your heart. And when you do that, I promise you the people will come. You build the right environment and they will come. How do you take care of your head? You know, the best way I know of taking care of my head, the best way I know to get out of my head is to make sure I train so much that everything happens unconsciously instead of trying to think through how to respond. So with my staff, I train objections. I train how to handle every single objection that they can get thrown at them. And then I tell them why I do that. Because unless they're able to do that, then when somebody throws them out of balance, they're in their head. And when you're in your head, where do you pull the patient? Into their head. So you got two people in their head, better said two egos, trying to get along. And I just know everything flows better when it's in the heart. So you see, the thing is you got to adjust your heart, but you also have to adjust your mind. And what that means is you got to quiet down your mind. You got to have forms of meditation. You got to have ways to prepare for your day. You got to have rituals that you do at night to calm down after a long day. How do you calm down? How do you get your mind to be quiet again? You got to create that in your day. See, every night before I go to sleep for about an hour, I have a ritual that I do. I listen to a certain meditation CD. I go into gratitude, and I start listening to whatever it is that calms me down and gets me centered. And when I wake up, I know how I wake up is how I went to sleep. So when I get up, I'm starting again like that. And I always, every single day, will either read a green book, or will listen to philosophy, or will listen to something inspiring to get my heart and my head on the right alignment channel. See, I want them resonating. I want people to feel my presence when I walk into that space. When I walk into a room, I want them to know. People say, Dr. Ray, you know, I said exactly what you said. How come the person didn't come in? And I'll tell you, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's the heart. It's how clear you are when you deliver it. Because when you're speaking and you got 18 things on your mind, you're delivering all 18 things to that same sentence, and it doesn't work. And we get in this habit where we think the best thing that we could do for somebody is an adjustment. And I agree, it is. But that's the smallest level of thinking we can have. If all we do is get them to come in for an adjustment, that's the smallest level of thinking you can have. See, the higher level of thinking is, you know what, they need to turn around and go out in the world and get everybody they know to come into the office. They need to get their family. They need to go set up talks. They need to go out there to a church or a company and set up a place for me to speak. They also need to be accountable for what they do outside the office. Whatever it is you got them to do, whatever lifestyle decisions you want them to do, they need to be accountable for that. And they also have an accountability to get involved in not only building the practice, but sharing the message. Here's what you need to know. The greatest gift in life is giving. How many of you agree with that? The greatest gift in life is giving. Yeah? Raise your hand if you agree with that. So how come we're not training our patients to think that way? Is it only good for us? It's not good for them? Because as far as I can tell, the best way to heal is to become resonant with the vibration of giving and not getting, which is the vibration of your spirit or your innate intelligence instead of the vibration of your ego or your head, which is all about getting and giving, gimme, 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 instead of getting. So I know that the best patients, the ones that stick around the longest, the ones that stay for life, are the ones that give the most. You could track that in your practice and see that. You can actually track when they're about to fall out. You can tell a person's going to fall out because they haven't referred anymore. Now they're in their head. They lost their passion. They lost their heart. See, they don't get to go to seminars like this, right? But that's why we hold them accountable to coming to workshops. Because the workshops are their seminar. And you know, I call them all sorts of names. I call them, you know, the next one I got is Forever Fit. I got one called, you know, How to Create Better Life with Your Thoughts. I make all sorts of names for these workshops, but every single workshop is the same. It's the principle. That's all it ever is. There's one power, one source, one thing called life that is right here in your brain, and as it flows into your body, allows you to have better life. And with better life comes better joy, comes better love. Nobody comes out of an adjustment crying. They come out in joy. They come out laughing. They come out smiling. I always kid around with my new patients. I say, you know, when you first come to our office, you see everybody happy. You're probably thinking, what kind of drugs are these guys on? But that's the natural design of allowing your body to express its full potential of life. We turn on life. We're the only profession that operates that way. And the best part about it is that the more love you give, the more love you feel, the more alignment you have, the better your life is. Everything in your life will become better as you become a better chiropractor, as you become a better CA, as you become a better wife. Everything in your life gets better by your ability to get into this thing called an alignment. We give adjustments, not only with our hands, with our heart, with our mouth. I think that's what BJ meant when he said that adjustment with that something extra. BJ said this, he said, when love and skill come together, expect a masterpiece. When love and skill come together, expect a masterpiece. The other night I was watching a documentary, it was on Vince Lombardi. And what happened is John Madden was talking about how when he first came to see Vince Lombardi, he was sitting in a seminar, and on 8 hours, Vince Lombardi was going over the same exact play, the same skill set. He said 8 hours, this guy talked about the same play. And he said, I left there and I realized I know nothing about football. I'm here to tell you that you need to master your basic skills, your consultations, how you handle objections, the systems, the procedures. You need to find a good coach that does that. If you need to know of one, let me know, and I'll guide you in the right direction. But you need to have the right skill. You need to have the right procedure. You need to have the right systems. And then here's the thing. All the skill in the world without love doesn't work. It just creates sickness and disease. If you watch what happened to Vince Lombardi through that process, you realize he lost everything because his own alignment was way out of balance. He was so busy trying to take care of all the skill that he forgot that the most important thing is to let it flow through. So I'm here to remind you guys that we work with an amazing intelligence, and all you have to do is get yourself aligned with it, and everything in your life will get better. But in order to do that, you have to master your skill, you have to master your alignment, and you got to begin to realize that everyone in your space, including your front desk, including the back office person, including the person who picks up the phone, they're all part of the adjustment. They're all part of the adjustment. Our gift is simple. Share the truth with the world. That's all it is. You know, I had a patient, and I want to end on this. I had a patient that came into my office, right? And she was telling me her son's name is Ryan. He's 26 years old. And for the last 10 years, he's just been constantly experiencing psychiatric problems. Schizophrenia, bipolar disease. She said, I had him in and out of the psychiatric ward. And she had tears running down her eyes. And she said, Dr. Ray, please help. Do you realize you're the only hope? Do you realize if you don't get through, no one will? Who's going to do it? The pharmaceutical company? The medical doctor? The person that creates the drugs? Who's going to go fight for that patient? Who's going to fight for Ryan? How many of you are willing to fight for Ryan? Raise your hand if you want to fight for Ryan. That's what we do. That's what we do, and that's the gift we get to do every single day. There are Ryans out there. There are people out there that need your help. You got to become sharp. You got to come to these seminars. You got to get your heart open. You got to get your head right. You got to get your hands really good. And you got to love, and they got to exude out of you so that your presence is felt, so that when somebody comes in and their son's name is Ryan, you know what to do. Because all I did was look at her in the eyes and say, we're not stopping until we get him out of there. We're not stopping until we get him out of there. She gave me a big hug, tears rolling down her eyes. That's what we do. It's the greatest gift in the world. Thank you for letting me share, guys. Thank you.